been chosen as a manufacturer in the First Congressional District that's growing, creating jobs, and doing things the right way. And you know, I just wanted to welcome all of the local leaders and Rob Cornilles to Gerber this morning.
Well, thank you for all being here, taking the time out of your busy day. My name is Craig Dirksen. I'm the mayor of Tigard, where you are right now. And you may have noticed I'm not wearing a Rob Cornilles badge on my suit. And I think that's because they realize they practically already have one. If you look at the City of Tigard logo, I think Rob liked it so much that he but we're here today to recognize Rob and give him support. I want to thank all of the mayors for being here today and showing that there's broad support in the local government community, recognizing what Rob's strengths are and what he can do for this region if he's elected to Congress. Now, I'm very grateful to be here at Gerber Legendary Blades. This is an awesome company that we're very proud to have here in the city of Tigard. And Gerber Blades, you know, if you need a blade to do something from you know, cleaning fish to fighting world terrorism or combating the undead, this is to get a blade. And but more than that, Jerry, come on up. This is Jerry Willie, he's the mayor of Hillsboro. Gerber's the kind of company that is the backbone of the United States. Big companies like Nike or Intel, they get a lot of the attention, both in the press and also from government. But it's smaller companies like Gerber that provide most of the jobs and support the United States and what we stand for. And Rob knows that. Rob, being a small businessman himself, he recognizes the struggles and the needs of a small business. And if he's in Congress, he will promote that and recognize that. And as he's making decisions and he's able to influence others, he'll be able to talk to them about the need to look to the needs of small business. And so we're happy to have Rob here today. We really need people like Rob in Congress. And so we all need to give him our support. This is my personal view. We all need to give him support and see what we can do to help him be elected. Now, if I could paraphrase a little bit, you could say that it'd be easier for a Republican to pass through the eye of a needle than to be elected to Congress from the state of Oregon. Other than, we do have Greg Walden, but he's from the other Oregon. But if there's someone who can, if someone who can break that Democratic deadlock, I think it's Rob. He has a moderate stance that I sure appreciate. Those of us in the middle right now, it's a very lonely place to be because it seems like most of our compatriots are way at one end or the other. But we need people who are willing to stand in the middle and encourage the others to come to where they are and work together to solve the problems that we have in the country. And I think Rob can do that.
Well, good morning. I'm Lou Ogden, Mayor in Tualatin, and I also want to add my compliments to Gerber and the successes that this company has made. And as the previous mayor said, as Craig said, not just the thriving of small business and the benefit that it creates in jobs and the economy and all the important things to us here, but that you put the name Gerber Legendary Blades is a nationally, internationally known business. And that brings pride back, and that brings stature back to our community. We appreciate that. And in terms of stature to our community, I would say to all of it, particularly pleased and proud that Rob and his family are our favorite family. We have a son from Tualatin, though he was born in Tigard, and I understand raised in Newburgh, and the mayor of Newburgh says his regrets his family having surgery today. But he and his wife chose to make Tualatin their home. Now, Tualatin citizens are beneficiaries of that, folks, because Rob has demonstrated his commitment to community in many ways. He's on the board, the foundation board for Virginia Garcia Health Clinic, which provides health services to those who are not able to afford it and don't have insurance. He is on the board of Special Olympics, I believe on the board of the Air Show, and just a number of things, the Minority Voters League, a number of things where he's put his energies and talents and efforts into making a better community, notwithstanding the issues of government or politics, but actually making a better community. I'd like to piggyback on Mayor Dirksen's comment for a moment, if I could. You know, in terms of philanthropic efforts, serving on boards, things to improve community, that's not a Republican or a Democrat effort. And you see all these mayors up here today. We don't have Republican and Democrat mayors in Oregon. Now, we have red-blooded Americans who may have affiliations to one particular party or another, as many of us do. But potholes and school boards and parks and police and the things that are important, turning the water on, that's not partisan, folks. That's service. A service you pay for and you expect a good return. And that's what Rob has demonstrated in his personal life, his business life, which is also headquartered in Tualatin, and Game Face has brought pride and recognition to the city of Tualatin as well. And that's the kind of integrity that he takes to Washington. And don't be misled by folks who might try to paint this as a partisan issue, particularly on one extreme or another. And in fact, Rob's qualities are, as Mayor Dirksen pointed out, that he is an individual who is individually minded, who's focused on outcomes, on individuals, on the rights of people in his community, not about partisan positions. You can call that a moderate if you want to put a label on it, but certainly we're tired of the partisan differences in Washington. And what we need is someone to come up and say, I will take the specter of the importance of people to Washington. But keep this in mind. There is also a technical issue you've got to be aware of. If you want to get something done in Congress, it helps to be in the majority. And so if you want to put a technical aspect to it, having a Republican in Congress will provide benefit to Oregon because he's in the majority, not because he's an extreme right-minded individual, which of course Rob isn't. So I urge you to think about that in terms of what's best for this region in terms of getting things done in Washington. Rob's got to get that done. I believe that's my heart.
I am very excited and honored to be here today. I am Cheryl Young, the mayor of Columbia City, a small little city along the Columbia just past St. Helens, a couple of miles. I want you to know that when I first met Rob Cornilles, he came to see me where I worked, which was amongst the seniors. That's the first thing. That's one of my passions, one of my many passions. Then we went down and we visited my city. My city, Columbia City, I have lived there for most of my life. I have cared enough about it to serve on the city council for many years. Right now we're struggling like other cities are struggling. But why? We have port property. Port property with a deep water port that we could be finding someone, a clean, an environmentally clean, productive business to come onto that port property that would supply jobs, not only for Columbia City, but for St. Helens, for Columbia County, for the community at large. We need those kinds of things. I have a brother who's been out of work since the mill closed in St. Helens. Because of his age and his health, he's not able to find a job right now. It's worse on him than it is even on the young people that are looking for jobs. But he has knowledge and experience, and he could work at one of these jobs if it was there. He cannot wait any longer. We cannot keep talking about things that need to happen. We need to make them happen as soon as possible. And we need then someone that can lead us in that direction, that can talk to other people and be able to talk to them about the need for jobs, also for seniors, for our health care, for all these issues that Rob has been talking about lately. Everything that he talks about is a passion of mine. And because I believe in it, and because Rob took the time is a commodity in life that is very, very precious. He came, and not only did he visit me where I worked, he came to my city and he looked around, and I was able to show him our small city and what it encompassed, let him meet our staff. And then he did one more thing, and this is very, very special to me, because it all comes down to why we need jobs, why we need a better future, why we need Washington, D.C. to stop just going back and forth and never getting anything done. He came to meet my family. My two little granddaughters, 2 and 4 years old, my son and his wife. This is what encompasses this entire world of family, friends, everyone working together. I saw in this man right away, just by listening to him and by the fact that he listened to me. He listened to my concerns and he was sincerely interested. I have not found that too often in people running for office. But when I do, I will tell you, I will never, ever forget them. And Rob Cornilles, I supported him in his first campaign. I support him now. I ask for all to support him, to give us that change and that hope for the future. We have gone and we've tried so many times. Now we have this opportunity to send someone to Congress that perhaps doesn't have as much government background. But I stand here as proof that you can go into something with the basic knowledge and experience that you have, and especially when it's in business, and you can make a big difference. I look forward to what Rob can do. I am so proud and honored to introduce to you the man I hope is our next congressman from the 1st District, Mr. Rob Cornilles.
This is a tremendous honor to stand with these fine people with me in front of you today. In the course of a campaign, there are all kinds of events that the candidate is expected to attend, hold, participate in. But I can tell you with all sincerity, of all the events that we've done throughout this campaign thus far, and we're in our 6th month right now, this is the one I've been looking forward to the most. There's a tremendous amount of talent in our district, a tremendous amount of people who want good things to happen to their communities. But when we were able to gather the collective strength and endorsement of these good people standing with me today, I knew that this campaign was going to break through the kind of barriers that Mayor Dirksen first described. And we were going to do some very special things. I honor these people who are standing here with me today. And I apologize if I'm taking a little bit more time than perhaps you expected, but I think to show the respect that they deserve, I'd like, if they would please, to each of them, and we'll start here at the very end, we'll just work our way. I'd like them to each introduce themselves to you and the city that they represent, if they would please.
Hi, good morning. I'm Chris Heisler. I'm the mayor of Lafayette, Oregon.
Give the Oregon Mayor Tualatin.
John Kinski, I'm the mayor of Banks.
Scott Burge, the mayor of Scappoose. Craig Dirksen, the mayor of Tigard.
Jerry Cole, I'm the mayor of Rainier.
Ken Smith, I'm mayor of Beaverton.
Val Adamson's the city sheriff.
Rick Olson, Mayor of McMinnville.
Cheryl Young, Mayor of Columbia City.
Mark Whalen, Mayor of Warrenton. Scott Hill, City Councilor in McMinnville.
Julie White, Mayor of Dayton.
Keith Mays, Mayor of Sherwood.
Jerry Willie, Mayor of Hillsboro.
Gretchen Wiener, Council President of Tigard.
Could you please give them a deserved round? Now, I've said several times in this campaign that the endorsement that brings me the most satisfaction is the endorsement from people such as this. Those who are in the trenches. And these people, to a person, are volunteering their time, not just to be here today, but to serve their respective communities. Many of them have been doing it for years. Some of them are fairly new in their respective roles. But to me, this is the epitome of great community service, what you see here today with these mayors. I've also said that I think it's absolutely incumbent on a member of Congress to know what the issues and the interests are of the communities within that district. And who better to know those interests than the people here with me today? And I want to be their partner. And I think I've said that to each of them, to a person. I want to be their partner. And there are some who are not here today, who could not be here, who also join them in supporting my candidacy and want to do everything they can to help us turn this around on January 31st. And they know that when I'm elected, that they're going to have someone in Congress who's going to listen to them. I may not always understand their issues, but that's why they're there, to coach, to teach, to help someone like me quickly get up to speed on the local issues that are important to them and their own constituents. And I also have had very frank conversations with these mayors in that there may be issues in time we will not see eye to eye about. But I think that's to be expected in government. And that's why I'm so proud to stand with this bipartisan collection of mayors. We have Republicans, we have independents, we have Democrats. Because they recognize that in the end, though we may disagree on some issues, they can trust that I will use my best judgment to do what is good for the entire district. And so this today, for me, is a landmark event because it sets the stage for the kind of cooperation, the kind of spirit that we're going to work with together. And I've laid out this challenge to voters, and I'd like to just conclude my few remarks with this, and then I'd be happy to take any questions from those of you who have come today. The simple challenge is this. It's two-way. You've challenged me throughout this campaign to go back to D.C. and work with anyone who's got a reasonable idea so that we can move the economy forward, so we can grow jobs. That's what these mayors are all about. That's why they've selected me as their candidate, because they believe that I would be most effective in growing jobs in the respective communities. And I've pledged to you, as I've pledged to them, that I will work with anyone who wants to roll up their sleeves and put party politics aside and work for the American people, specifically those who live in the 1st District of Oregon. But now the challenge to you, and that is, will you take that same attitude when deciding how you're going to vote in the next 3 weeks? Some of you perhaps have never considered voting for a Republican. Some of the mayors standing behind me had never considered endorsing a Republican. But they've demonstrated leadership by saying, you know, partisanship has not gotten us anywhere. We're going to come away from our respective corners. We're going to meet somewhere in the middle, find common ground, and move our communities and our district forward. And so I pose that challenge to you as well. And if you know people who are pretty entrenched in their own thinking, I would ask you to extend the challenge to them. Because as I said last night on the debate that we had, if we can't practice cooperation and a sense of real spirit here together as a community, how can we expect those in Washington, D.C. to do the same? And what's great about this special election, everyone, is that it's the first federal election of 2012 anywhere in the country. We're going to set the tone for the way the country should act throughout this year by sending this very clear message. Enough with party politics. Let's get some positive results for the people of America. So thank you again for coming. I'd be happy to take any questions or answer any curiosities anyone may have. We'll do the media later. Anyone who's not here from the media? Any curiosities? Anything that's come up in the race that you're interested in knowing? Anything about our campaign? Anything on television you may have seen that you want to question me about? Thank you.
Well, I know the answer, but you might want to say it publicly in front of everybody, but the rebuttal to the advertisement on TV about you're not paying taxes.
Thank you for asking. Sure, as a small business owner, as Mayor Ogden mentioned, I started my business in Tualatin about 16 and a half years ago. And Allison, my wife, who's here on the second row, she granted me permission to do this, to start a business out of our home. And when we did, we were just the two of us at first, but as we began to grow, we expanded, we added people, which is the natural inclination of anyone who sees a business that's doing well. You want to provide the service or the product to more people, just as Gerber does here. And so in 2006, about 11 years after we began, we had a situation where a new bookkeeper who we had hired failed to pay our payroll taxes. I was unaware of it until about 6-7 months into the situation. When I was made aware of it, we immediately contacted the Internal Revenue Service here in Portland, and we asked simply, how do we fix this? And so they told us what the amount was, which included penalties and interest. It's about $83,000. To a small business, that's not something just laying around that you can just quickly, write a check in 24 hours. So we worked out a payment plan with the IRS, and within 90 days, everything was settled. Never had a problem before that, never had a problem since then. But it's the cost of doing business. Sometimes you make mistakes. We made a mistake. I take the blame for that as the owner of the company. I should have been more diligent, but I'm happy to say that I think I demonstrated leadership. by acknowledging the issue and fixing it as soon as we could. Anything else? Well, I'll just conclude with this then, if I, oh, but there was. Oh, sorry.
I know that job creation is important too, so I'm curious if you have a plan to bring more jobs, specifically in manufacturing, to the Portland and Pacific Northwest area.
Thank you for asking. In fact, if you'll go on my website, you'll find more detail than I'm going to get into right now. But cornillesforcongress.com has a full explanation of our jobs plan that I put together and announced earlier in the campaign. But I'll give you the 3 pillars of the jobs plan. And this, I might add, is a bipartisan idea and approach. And there's a lot of things that are said in the campaign of how we grow jobs. But what the voter needs to ask is, can this really get done with a divided Congress? Well, the things I'm going to suggest to you now can get done, because there's already bipartisan support for it. It just needs leadership to drive it forward. Number 1, we have an overly cumbersome tax code in our country. It affects companies, large and small. It affects individuals and families. It affects nonprofit organizations. Essentially, this tax code is full of excessive loopholes, deductions, etc., that are frankly written by lawyers and lobbyists and only understood by people who can afford them, which means the mega corporations and the mega rich. I'll give you an example. General Electric, last year, made $14.1 billion, in 2010, made $14.1 billion in profits, most of it overseas, I would add, and paid 0 federal income tax. I think that's unfair. I don't think that only those who know the well-connected should be able to get away with paying 0 federal income tax. I think everyone needs to pay, quote, their fair share. And so, if you simplify the tax code, you make it simpler, fairer, more predictable, then everybody, including the GEs, contributes to the tax revenue that we need in this country. And small businesses, such as Gerber, are not left holding the bag, having to pay the full bill. That's one part of tax overhaul. The other part is to lower the rates for everybody. If you lower the rates for everybody, it puts more money into the American consumer pocket to do good things with it. And I trust you that you know how to use your resources better than someone 2,500 miles away from us. What would you do with your resources? You might pay down some bills. You might pay off your mortgage. You might be able to send a kid to college. You might help a nonprofit organization that needs support. You might start a business. You might invest in a business. You might buy products and services. These grow jobs. All of these ideas. The second pillar of my jobs plan is to recognize, and Gerber is a fantastic example, and that's why we're so proud to be here today, recognize that we produce outstanding products and services in this district that the world would want if we could open up more markets around the world. If we could be friendlier to trade agreements. Our previous congressman abhorred most trade agreements. My opponent took a long time to decide if she liked trade agreements. I recognize the First District of Oregon, starting right here at Gerber, going clear out throughout all the counties and cities that these mayors represent. We produce things that are wanted overseas. But you've got to have trade agreements open so that we can ship those products and services over. And that's what I want to do. I used to live in Asia. Nihongo dekimasu. I used to speak Japanese. I can't wait to use that skill, use that experience to open up more markets for these kinds of businesses. And the third thing we have to do to create jobs in this country, not to mention this state, is we have to insist that the people in Washington, D.C. become fiscally responsible, just like you have to be right here under this roof. If you don't meet a budget, you have to make some tough decisions. If Congress doesn't meet a budget, which, by the way, they haven't passed for 1,000 days, what do? They just continue to swipe a credit card and ask you and your kids and grandkids to pay for it. That's irresponsible governance. By creating a balanced budget, not immediately, because if you do that constitutionally, if it had to be incorporated January 1st, 2013, as an example, that would throw the economy into a bucket of ice water. Because that means we'd have to immediately raise taxes to dramatic levels and or reduce services, unlike we've seen. We can't do that in this fragile economy. But using a measured approach, such as what Mayor Dirksen and what Mayor Ogden talked about, using a measured approach over time, say the next 10 years. If we can have a balanced budget on the federal level like we do the state and municipal level, I believe it will put more confidence in people who want to invest in America, who want to start businesses, who want to grow our economy. These three things will stimulate job growth. Again, there's bipartisan support. You have to have people have the courage and the political will to get it done. I do. This will be part of my platform if you'll give me the opportunity to represent you. So in closing, let me just say this. Outside, some of you can see it from the window, there's a sign that says unstoppable. And we see it every day when we drive down I-5, when we see Gerber knives, unstoppable, Gerber blades. And I always take courage with that particular slogan. And that's how I feel about this district. Yes, it's true for a company, but it's also true for what I believe is the greatest district in the country. I know wherever I speak. I've traveled all over the country as part of my work. My wife and I have made a conscious choice to stay right here because of the talents and the assets that we appreciate and enjoy, as evidenced by the people behind me and the people in front of me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are unstoppable as a district if we have proper representation. I'm tired of being an elected district of 435. Please help me this year to make that different and to change the way that we can represent ourselves in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for being here.
That'd be interesting. I want to hear him. Oh,
Yeah.